The Music of Israel is brought to you by the American Friends of Tel Aviv University. Now here's your host for the Music of Israel, Special Assistant to the President of the American Friends of Tel Aviv University, Dr. Avraham Soltis.
Shalom. One of the most touching experiences in Israel for me is moving through the section of the Jerusalem Museum devoted to Jewish ceremonial art and coming upon the small synagogue of Vittorio Veneto, a complete sanctuary in wood, gilt, brass, and silver, transported in toto to the museum in 1964 through the generosity of Jacob Michael in memory of his wife, Erna. Vittorio Veneto was a small town in northern Italy, 60 kilometers north of Venice. Its Jewish community disappeared during the latter half of the 19th century. The synagogue was built in 1701 and brought to Jerusalem with all its appurtenances: ark, lamps, sconces, walls, and benches, a perfect example of the combined Baroque and neoclassical traditions that characterize the Italian Jewish community, which has lived in the Tyrrhenian Peninsula continuously for over 2,300 years. As you enter this Mikdash Ma'at, this small sanctuary, and let your imagination roam, you can hear the congregation gathering to welcome the Sabbath Queen and affirming their faith through the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That was the choir of the synagogue in Milano, singing Lecha Dodi, the 16th century welcome to the Sabbath of Shlomo Alkabetz of Safed, and the Shema. Did you notice how distinctively Italian was their pronunciation of the Hebrew words? The full vowels, the separation of diphthongs, the bel canto singing, relishing every syllable. Listen again for a moment to Mi Chamocha, who was like unto thee, O Lord, sung in the high holiday mode. The reason for the operatic character of the synagogue singing from the temple in Milano is due in part to the direction of Signor Vittore Veneziani from La Scala, but it reflects also the deep involvement of the sophisticated Italian Jewish community in the cultural and commercial life of Italy for 23 centuries. When Simon Maccabeus sent an embassy to Rome in the year 139 before the Christian era, the ambassadors, Eupolemus, son of Johanan, and Jason, son of Eleazar, received a warm welcome from their co-religionists already established in the city. Before the classical period ended, there were at least 40 settlements of Jews on the Italian peninsula and a large community in Sicily. Jewish scholarship and literature accompanied trade and moved through Italy to northern Europe. The 13th century saw a great resurgence of Hebrew learning. Schools developed in Rome, Pesaro, Trani. Jews wrote medical works and translated scientific classics into Hebrew. Hebrew poetry flourished, paralleling the rise of interest in Italian romantic verse. Emanuel Haromi, a friend of Dante, wrote erotic verse as well as hymns in Hebrew, introducing the sonnet to the language. The rise of the Renaissance in the 15th and 16th centuries stimulated new interest in Hebrew and the Bible on the part of Christian clergy and scholars, and a fuller participation of Jews in the renewal of literature and the sciences. Symbolic of this close interrelationship was the music of Salamani de Rossi, employed, as was Monteverdi, in the ducal court of Mantua, where he published 5 books of madrigals as well as polyphonic choral works for the Italian synagogue. That was a brief portion of Psalm 92, Tov Lahodot. It is good to give thanks to the Lord, by the 16th century Italian composer Salamani de Rossi, sung by Cantica Hebraica, conducted by Dennis Michno. Through centuries of alternating light and darkness, the Italian Jewish communities continued to contribute to the arts, sciences, Hebrew learning, Hebrew publishing, and eventually to the Risorgimento, the revival, the struggle for Italian freedom. In 1848, civil rights were granted to all non-Catholics, and Daniele Manin headed the Republic of Venice. Jews entered every avenue of life in Italy, contributing 2 prime ministers, Sidney Sonnino, 1906 to 1910, and Luigi Luzzati, 1910 to 1911, as well as numerous generals, writers, scholars, jurists, and scientists. So well integrated were Italian Jews into their communities that when I suggested in 1963 to the director of the Israel Festival that he invite Florentine composer Mario Castelnuovo-Tedesco to the Israel Festival in 1965 to mark his 70th birthday, his response was, "Is he Jewish?" Mario Castelnuovo-Tedesco was born in 1895 to a Sephardic family that had lived in Florence for 400 years. The turn-of-the-century community was much assimilated to Italian ways. Even the music of the Florentine synagogue he heard as a boy echoed the style of Italian opera, like that we heard a few moments ago. His education stressed Latin and Greek. It was only when he studied musical composition at the Cherubini Royal Institute of Music with a non-Jew, Ildebrando Pizzetti, who was deeply devoted to the ancient modes and the Hebrew Bible, that young Castelnuovo-Tedesco was stimulated to remember the simple songs with which his grandfather had enlivened family gatherings on Purim and Passover. In 1925, Castelnuovo-Tedesco's mother inherited her father's library. Behind shelves of books, they discovered a little notebook of musical manuscripts. I've held that notebook in my hand. It was of a size to fit the palm of a Baal Tefillah when he and his choir officiated at weddings, circumcisions, Pidyon Haben rituals, and other home religious celebrations. It contained prayers for these occasions set in 3-part harmony. Tedesco was elated. No one in the family knew that his grandfather had composed music. It revealed to Mario the roots of his own musical talent. He composed a piano suite based on themes he remembered hearing from his grandfather, who had died when Mario was 9. He called it The Dances of King David, a Hebrew rhapsody on traditional themes. The work established Tedesco's reputation and was selected to represent Italian music at the International Festival of Contemporary Music in Frankfurt, Germany in 1926, where it was first performed by Walter Gieseking. 2 years later, Tedesco penned 3 chorales on Hebrew melodies, treating material from the same source contrapuntally. We'll hear now one of them from a tape recording made at the Perugia Music Festival in 1954 with the composer at the piano. That was one of Mario Castelnuovo-Tedesco's 3 chorales on Hebrew themes, performed by the late composer at the Perugia Festival of 1954.